Google Ads clicks are getting more expensive, and for a lot of businesses, it feels like you're just paying more just to get the same traffic that you used to get at a cheaper cost. And I know it can be really frustrating because your campaign might not look like it's doing anything dramatically different. It might be targeting the same area, using the same keywords, sending people to the same website, and yet your cost per click just keeps creeping up. But lowering your cost per click usually isn't just about randomly dropping your bids and hoping for the best, because, well, yes, your bid does matter, but it's not the only thing that Google looks at when it comes to entering your ads into the auction. So then a lot of the time, lowering your CPC comes down to helping Google see that your ad is the better choice, that it is a more relevant option for the person doing the searching. So when your ads, your keywords, your landing page all work together, you usually put yourself in a much better position to pay less for those more ideal clicks. So in today's video, I'm going to show you the practical things that you can do with your keywords, your ads, your landing pages, and your search terms to help bring the cost per click down. But first, let's start with talking what is CPC. So CPC stands for cost per click, and it's basically what you're paying on average every time somebody clicks on your ad or interacts with it. So if you spend $100 and get 20 clicks, your average CPC would be $5. But one thing I want to mention here is that your cost per click is not automatically a good thing or a bad thing if it's increasing or decreasing. A $5 CPC might be great for one business and terrible for another. A $20 CPC might sound expensive, but if that click turns into a booked job, a new patient, or a high value lead, it could still make total sense. Whereas a $1 click might feel cheap, but if it's coming from someone who was never going to become a customer anyways, then you didn't really save money, you just brought in cheaper junk traffic. So the goal is not to just get cheaper clicks, the goal is to pay less for the right clicks. Especially right now, CPCs are rising a lot across all industries. There are more businesses advertising, more competition for the same searches, and in some industries, a single click can start to get really expensive. But that doesn't mean that you just accept it and move on. It means that you have to start getting tighter with the parts of the campaign that Google uses to decide whether your ad is actually relevant to the search. And so that brings us to the biggest thing that can affect your CPC, which is your quality score. So I did a more in-depth video on quality score a few weeks ago, so I'll link that one below if you want to check out the full video. But the simple version is that Google does not only care about how much you're willing to pay in the auction. Google also cares about how useful and how relevant your ad is for the person that just did the search. So every time someone searches something on Google, there is an auction happening in the background. And in that auction, your bid is a big part of the equation, but your ad quality or your quality score is a huge part of it as well. So Google is trying to figure out, is this ad actually a good match for what this person searched for? Because at the end of the day, Google wants the user to have a good experience. They want the ads that are showing at the top of the page to feel helpful, to be relevant, and to actually answer what that person is searching for. So if you are bidding on a keyword, and then your ad is very different from that keyword, and then your landing page is also very different from your ad and your keyword, that doesn't really match. So it creates a lot of friction. And when there's friction, you can end up paying more for the clicks that you actually need. But when your keywords, your ad, and your landing page all line up really clearly, Google has more reason to trust that your ad is a good fit for what that person searched for. And that's where you start to see your cost per clicks come down. So the three things that Google looks at to determine your quality score is your expected click-through rate, your ad relevance, and your landing page experience. So if you improve any one of those three levers or all of them, then your cost per click will start to come down. So the first place I would look is at the ads themselves and making sure that the click-through rate is healthy and that the ad is relevant. So you have your list of keywords, make sure the ad copy that you are running as well speaks to those keywords. Then make sure that the click-through rate looks good. So if your ads have been running for a while, go into your campaign and look at how they're performing. Look at which ads are getting a stronger click-through rate and which ones are getting ignored. If one ad is getting a much lower click-through rate than your other ads, that's usually a sign that something about that messaging is not connecting with the person doing the search. So instead of letting the weaker ad keep running forever, I would pause it, create a new version of the winning ad, and test a different angle. Maybe you test different messaging, or you run a keyword insertion, adding your locations or adding your service directly into the ad copy, mentioning where you serve clients, calling out the problem they're trying to solve, or what it's like working with you. So you're not changing ads just for the sake of changing them. You're looking for what resonates the most with your audience and then leaning into it. And then this is also where you would look at your asset performance. So if you're using responsive search ads, Google will show you how every one of your headlines and descriptions are performing. So if there are certain headlines that are underperforming, or they're just not adding anything useful or relevant to your ad copy, you can replace them with something that might be stronger, or pause them and remove them altogether. So if someone searches for brake repair near me and your ad says something generic like trusted local auto shop, that might look fine, but it's not as strong when you speak directly to what the searcher is looking for. So having something like brake repair in Austin, or book your brake service today, that is much more specific to the actual search. And then the next big thing that I would look at is your account structure. And this is huge because a lot of the CPC problems start before the ad even gets written. So if your keywords are all lumped together in one messy ad group, it becomes really hard to write ads that are actually specific to every single keyword. So let's say you own an auto shop. If you have one ad group with keywords like auto repair near me, brake repair near me, tires near me, that ad group is doing way too much, because how are you supposed to write one ad that speaks to people looking for brakes and also speak to people looking for tires? You can't really. So what usually ends up happening is that the ad becomes very broad and you end up just saying things like local auto repair shop or schedule your service today. And again, that's not necessarily wrong, but it's not as relevant as it could be, and Google does not see it as relevant either. So if someone is searching for tires, they should see an ad about tires. If someone is searching for brake repair, they should see an ad about brake repair. And that sounds obvious, but a lot of accounts that I audit are not built this way. So instead, you want to separate your keywords into clear themes, and each ad group can then have an ad that speaks to that specific theme. So this helps improve your ad relevance because now your keywords and your ad match up, but it can also make it a lot easier to manage your campaigns, because when performance changes or you want to see how certain ad groups are performing, you can see it at a quick glance without trying to dig through a really messy single ad group. So if your CPC is rising and your account structure is pretty messy, I would look at whether the campaign is optimized in a way that even allows your ad copy to be relevant. And then the next piece is your landing page experience. And this is one that people usually overlook because they think that your cost per click and everything to do with ads stops at what happens on platform or in the search. But Google is also looking at what happens after the click. So if your ad is talking about tires and then the person clicks through to a general contact page or a brake repair page, or even your homepage that just lists all of your services, that's not the strongest experience. The person searched for something specific, your ad promised something specific, and then the page should continue that conversation. And the page doesn't need to be fancy, but it does need to answer the person's search queries. So it should be clear about what the service is, where you offer it, why someone should choose you, and what their next ideal step is. So you want your call to action really clear and at the top of the page. And then the other really big part about landing page experience is your page speed. So if your page loads slowly, it is going to negatively affect every single keyword that points to that landing page. Because from Google's perspective, sending someone to a slow page is not a great user experience. And from a business's perspective, it is also not great because people are really impatient. So if the page takes too long to load, they're not even going to wait around to see what is on the page. So sometimes just improving the page speed can help increase your quality score alone. Now, the next thing is probably the biggest and easiest thing you can do to lower your cost per click and also reduce wasted ad spend. And it is probably one of the most things that is overlooked when it comes to optimizing campaigns. And that is your search term audits. And I know this is not the most exciting thing to talk about in the world, but it is probably one of the most important. Especially nowadays, your keywords are not always the exact searches that people are typing into Google. So your keyword might be brake repair near me, but depending on which match types you're using and how Google is matching things, your ad could be showing for searches that are closely related or kind of related to your actual keyword. So then when you go through your search terms, you're looking at the actual searches that triggered your ad to show. And this is where you can find a lot of that wasted ad spend. So let's stick with the auto repair example. Maybe you are looking for people looking to book a brake job. And so your keyword is brake repair near me, but then you look at your search terms and your ad might get matched up with people searching for something like DIY brake repair. So those people might be interested in brakes, but they're not looking to book an appointment with your shop. They're looking how to figure it out on their own. So your ad is showing for these searches and people are clicking on them. So you are paying for that traffic that is not aligned with your campaign goals. And so this is where your negative keywords come in. You would add words like DIY, free, jobs, or any of your competitor names that are clearly not a good fit to your campaign goals. And so then Google knows not to show your ad for those kinds of searches anymore. And this is why search term audits are so powerful, because they help you stop paying for the wrong people. And once you stop paying for those type of searches, you're giving more of your budget back to the searches that you actually want to be showing up for. Now, does adding negatives directly lower your CPC? No. But it can lower your average wasted cost, improve the quality of traffic coming in and that is seeing your ad, and it helps Google understand what kinds of searches are and are not a good fit for your campaign. And that can make the whole campaign a lot cleaner, because instead of Google spending your budget on every loosely related search it can find, you are giving it boundaries. And that matters a lot, especially now that Google's matching has gotten broader. So if you take nothing else from this video, take this. Search term audits need to be a part of your normal routine, and it should be something that you are checking consistently. And the next thing to talk about is your keyword strategy, because sometimes people try to lower their cost per click after the campaign is already spending money, but the issue starts with the keywords that they chose in the first place. So exact competitive keywords usually cost more. So if you are bidding on a term like dentist or lawyer or contractor as an exact match, you are going to be entering a very competitive auction with a lot of different types of searches mixed together. So somebody bidding on dentist may show up for dentist jobs near me. So then one way to lower your CPC and improve lead quality is to get more specific with your keywords. And this is where high intent and long tail keywords can help. So a long tail keyword is usually a longer, usually 3 to 5 words, and more specific type of search. So instead of just targeting auto repair, you might target brake repair near me, or check engine light diagnosis in Dallas, or transmission repair shop in Phoenix. Now, these searches may have less volume, but that is not always a bad thing, because the more specific the search is, the easier it is usually to understand what the person wants, and then the easier it is to write ad copy for that person and send them to a landing page that is also very relevant to what they're looking for. Then the next thing to look at is your bidding strategy. And this is where you need to start to think about the real goals of your campaigns, because if your goal is truly just to get as many website visits as possible, then a click focused strategy like maximize clicks makes sense. But if you use maximize clicks, you can also set a max CPC limit to help keep Google from spending too much on any one click. And it can be useful in some situations, but for most service-based businesses, the goal is not just traffic. The goal is calls, form fills, booked appointments, qualified leads. So if this is the real goal, then you do not want to obsess necessarily over your cost per click so much that you accidentally train the campaign to bring in cheap clicks that do not convert. Because Google can usually find cheap traffic, that part is not hard. The harder part is finding traffic that actually turns into business. So in some campaigns, a conversion-focused bidding strategy may be a better fit than trying to manually force the lowest possible CPC. But this only works if your conversion tracking is set up correctly, because if Google does not know what a good lead looks like, or if it is counting junk actions as conversions, then it cannot optimize properly. So before you lean too heavily on automated bidding, make sure that your tracking is clean, make sure your calls are being tracked, make sure your forms are being tracked. Make sure you are not counting random page views or low value actions as leads. And if it's possible, look beyond the form fill and the phone call. Look at which leads actually booked appointments or became patients or consultations or ended up in sales, because this is where the CPC needs to be put into context. So a campaign with a higher CPC might be better if those clicks turn into real revenue. So when you are trying to lower your cost per click, always look at the full picture. Look at your click-through rate, look at your conversion rate, look at your cost per lead, the lead quality, the booked jobs or revenue, if you have all of that tracking available, because your cost per click is really only just one piece of the puzzle. And if your cost per click is a little bit higher, but your return on what you're actually spending is higher, that's really what matters. The real goal is not to have the cheapest clicks in the account. The real goal is to stop overpaying for the clicks that matter. So to bring this all together, if you want to lower your CPC, start with relevance. Look at whether your ads are getting clicked, test new headlines and descriptions, clean up your account structure so that your ad groups are actually focused. The search, the keyword, the ad, and the landing page and the conversion all need to make sense together. And the reason all of this comes back to quality score is because Google is constantly looking at how relevant your campaign is. So if you want to understand that piece, your quality score, more deeply, click right here to watch my video on quality score. And that's where I break down exactly what Google is looking at and how to improve it. And I'll see you over there.